While everyone was mocking the overweight street artist, Ozzy Osbourne suddenly appeared. If I told you that one freezing November night in Birmingham, a woman mocked on the street found her life forever changed by the Prince of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne, you probably wouldn't believe me. But that night on Corporation Street, something extraordinary happened. Music, and pure, raw, and human, stood up to cruelty and reminded the world what empathy really sounds like. Before we begin, tell us where in the world you're watching from, and if you believe that kindness and art still matter in this world, hit subscribe to Voices of Darkness like this video, and share it with your friends, because this one deserves to be heard. The November wind sliced through Birmingham like broken glass. Neon lights spilled from pubs onto slick cobblestones, and the scent of cheap beer and fried chips filled the air. On the corner of Corporation Street, a heavy-set woman sat hunched over an old Gibson guitar. Her name was Margaret Thompson, 47 years old, 320 pounds, her hair streaked with silver. She wasn't new to this corner. For 20 years, this stretch of pavement had been her stage, her confessional, her last fragile connection to a dream that had once glowed inside her, to make people feel something. Anything. That night, though, the city didn't want to feel. It wanted to laugh. Look at her, she's out of breath already, snickered a young man in a peacoat, phone in hand. His friend laughed, pulling out his camera. A crowd gathered, not to listen, but to film, to mock, to feed the endless hunger of social media. Margaret played Black by Pearl Jam. Her fingers shook from the cold, but her notes were clean, soulful, full of ache. She'd learned to play this song for her late husband, who used to tell her she sounded like a storm with a heartbeat. But that heartbeat was drowned beneath the crowd's cruelty. "Go to the gym instead of playing guitar," someone shouted. Laughter erupted, cruel and echoing between the cold buildings. A young blonde girl started a live stream. "Guys, you won't believe this," she said, grinning at her phone. Some lady thinks she's a rock star. Hearts floated across her screen. Comments scrolled, cringe. Somebody stop her. Birmingham's next meme. Margaret's heart trembled, but she didn't stop. Because music was all she had left. At the edge of the crowd, a man in a black leather jacket paused. He was older now, 70, but there was no mistaking the walk, the presence, the aura of someone who had lived 1,000 lives on stage. Ozzy Osbourne, Birmingham's own son, out for a quiet evening walk. He noticed the scene instantly, the laughter, the humiliation, the hopeless bravery in that woman's eyes. And it broke him, because he'd been there too. Back in 1985, when he stepped on stage at Live Aid, heavier than usual, critics had torn him apart. Fat Ozzy. Has-been. Relic. He remembered every headline. Every sneer. A man in an expensive suit looked over at Ozzy and said, "Nothing to see here, mate. Some woman making a fool of herself. Council should stop this nonsense." Ozzy looked at him. That slow, unblinking glare that could still freeze a stadium. Then he walked past him, right into the heart of the crowd. Margaret's hands shook as she noticed someone stepping forward. The laughter quieted. "That's a beautiful song," Ozzy said, his voice deep, warm, distinctly brummy. "Pearl Jam, right?" The crowd turned. A few gasps. "Wait, is that Ozzy Osbourne?" whispered someone. Phones shut up. The blonde girl screamed into her live stream. "Oh my God, guys, it's Ozzy. Ozzy's here." Ozzy smiled gently at Margaret. "Go on, love. Don't stop because of these Muppets." "Keep playing," her lips trembled. I can't believe you're..." "Believe it," he said, kneeling slightly so their eyes met. "Let's show 'em what real music sounds like." Margaret strummed again, slower now, and Ozzy began to sing along. His voice, worn yet powerful, filled the cold night. "I know someday you'll have a beautiful life. I know you'll be a star." The laughter stopped. The phone stayed up, but the mocking had turned to awe. A legend and a forgotten street musician, together, in the same light, same song, same soul. The street became a cathedral. When they finished, Ozzy clapped softly. "Bloody brilliant," he said, eyes gleaming. "I'm Ozzy, love." "And you are?" "Margaret." "Margaret Thompson," she whispered, tears glistening. "Well, Margaret Thompson," he said, standing tall, "you've just reminded this old man why he ever picked up a mic." Act 2. the street that became a stage. The crowd was spellbound. For a moment, even Birmingham's restless noise stood still. Then a hesitant clap. Then another. Soon the whole crowd erupted in applause, but one voice tried to ruin it. A man from the back, a young music store owner known for his arrogance, and shouted, "She's faking it," probably miming to a track. Ozzy's expression hardened. "Oh, really?" he said, his grin turning dangerous. "Let's test that, shall we?" He turned to Margaret. "Love, how about a bit of Paranoid? No way to fake that one." Her eyes widened, but then she smiled. "Let's do it." The next moment, that old Gibson screamed to life. The iconic riff of Paranoid cut through the cold air like lightning. Ozzy's voice thundered behind it. "Finished with my woman 'cause she couldn't help me with my mind." The street exploded in sound and emotion. Even passing cars slowed down, drivers hanging out windows to film. The same people who had mocked her now shouted and cheered. When the song ended, Ozzy raised his arms. "There's your answer. This woman's the real deal." The crowd roared. The finance man, red-faced, muttered, "She's incredible." Ozzy took out his wallet and dropped several $20 notes into her hat. "For the music, love. Real artists deserve support." That single act changed everything. People began dropping in their own money. Some handed her notes, others hugged her. Even the blonde girl, tears in her eyes, turned her phone toward the camera. "Guys, I think we owe this woman an apology. She's amazing." "I was so wrong." The comments shifted instantly. "Respect. This made me cry. Support real talent." The crowd transformed from predators to protectors. From hate to humanity. Ozzy looked around, voice rising again. "You know, back in '85 they called me fat, said I was done. But music doesn't care what you look like. It cares who you are. And this woman's got more soul than half the bloody industry." Tears rolled down Margaret's cheeks. "Mr. Osbourne, do you really mean that?" He laughed, that famous raspy cackle. "Love, if I didn't, I wouldn't be here freezing my arse off with you." He handed her a card. "Come to my place tomorrow night. Bring that guitar. Let's make something real." The crowd erupted again. Ozzy winked. "See you tomorrow, superstar." Act 3. The song that changed the city. The next morning, Margaret's phone wouldn't stop ringing. BBC, ITV, The Guardian. Her TikTok had millions of views overnight. Hashtags flooded the internet. Source Margaret's Corner, Ozzy and the Busker, the night music fought back. But Margaret stayed humble. "I'm just a street musician," she told reporters. Ozzy's the miracle. That evening, she arrived at Ozzy's studio, nervous, clutching her Gibson. Sharon Osbourne greeted her with a hug. "So this is the woman who melted my husband's heart," Sharon said warmly. Ozzy laughed. "Told you, Sharon, she's got thunder in her fingers." They recorded late into the night. An acoustic version of Paranoid. A duet of Black, and one of Margaret's own songs, A Street Dreams. When the final note faded, Ozzy leaned back in his chair. "Margaret, you've got something special. You made me remember why I fell in love with music." Margaret whispered, "You saved me." Ozzy shook his head. "Nah, love. You saved us. You reminded us that real music still lives on street corners." Months later, the album Street Dreams dropped. The cover showed a photo of that November night. Ozzy and Margaret side by side, bathed in neon and courage. It went viral. Millions streamed it. Rolling Stone called her the voice that silenced the hate. Birmingham City Council renamed the corner Margaret's Corner. A bronze plaque read, "Here on a cold night, music fought back." At the Grammy Awards, Margaret stood on stage. Not as a victim, not as a meme, but as an artist. She held up her trophy, voice trembling. "I thought I was invisible. But Ozzy saw me, and that night he showed the world that music still has a soul." Ozzy, sitting in the front row, wiped a tear and smiled. Final narration. Moral: maybe you too have been judged. For how you look, what you dream, or how you sound. Maybe you've been mocked by crowds that never understood your melody. But remember, your worth isn't decided by them. It's decided by the courage it takes to keep playing your song when no one listens. Because like Margaret and Ozzy that night, the music inside you is stronger than the world's cruelty. And if you ever forget that, just listen, because somewhere on a cold street the night music is still fighting back. If this story touched your heart, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Voices of Darkness for more powerful stories of hope, art, and redemption. Like this video. Share it with your friends because compassion, just like music, only grows when you pass it on. Until next time. Keep your soul tuned to kindness and your volume turned up for truth.